Greetings my friends, it's Top Hat here, and today I'm going to be showing you off my upgraded and customized Airsoft P226. I have nicknamed this pistol Alpine. Now the base gun here is KJW. This gun is old. I believe I got it in 2009. I got it as a sort of a graduation present for one of my high school years, and interestingly enough I actually drove up to Airsoft Atlanta, the in-store, to pick it out. But yes, it's a base gun. KJW P226. The silver externals here I actually hand polished. I did have a hand polished outer barrel and spring guide rod, however I replaced those, as I'll mention when I go over the internal upgrades later on. It looked pretty darn nice. I might actually polish off the outer barrel at some point, but it did take a lot of time, so it's just something I guess I'll have to get around to doing. Now, as far as performance upgrades go, I have rigged it for HPA, which is an absolute amazing upgrade, and I love it. Great accuracy out of the gun, pretty darn hard to miss, 130 feet or closer. It's pretty accurate out to about 160. The magazine here, as you'll notice, has no follower. Now the reason for that is I have sort of jerry-rigged it to work with an AEG Hi-Cap. Now how this works is I cut off the bottom of the base so that I can fit in a little brass pipe here. I took an AEG mag, I took out the BB stopper, and what I do is I take the magazine, hold it like here. I normally put a strip of electrical tape on either side of the magazine to hold the pistol mag to the AEG mag. Do that on both sides, it holds it down there. And then when I put on the HPA tap, I will also put the rubber band around the HPA, and between the electrical tape and the rubber band it will hold the Hi-Cap in place, and the Hi-Cap will feed into the magazine, so I have a pistol with an external HPA line and 190 BBs per magazine, which means I don't have to reload, which is really nice because I'm too cheap to buy about 8 of these magazines, and switching magazines with HPA takes a little bit of time, and I'm going up against full auto AEGs at the indoor field when I use this, so I don't want to put myself at too much of a handicap, but at the same time, my enemies have to have some sort of a chance, I guess, right? So semi-only being my only handicap. But that's nice, that's kind of how I like it. I like accuracy more so than firepower. It's just my style, my preferred way of playing Airsoft. Long-term goal is actually to do an external ammo line as well as an external airline kind of thing. I'll put a link in the video description to where you can find a video guide I found that gave me that idea. Now, as far as upgrades go, I've actually written myself a list here because I have a lot of internal upgrades in this, because the KJW P226 is compatible with Tokyo Marui, so you can put in Tokyo Marui upgrades. Now, besides the obvious upgrades that I've already mentioned, the HPA tank. Also, quick note, if you're going the HPA route, I highly recommend you get a Fireline regulator instead of the cheaper ARX20 SLP. I get a lot better performance out of the Fireline. Actually, this is the Ninja SLP, which I believe is the same thing as the Fireline. So just like to throw that in whenever I can, because it would have saved me a bit of money if I just went this route in the first place. So, besides the obvious external upgrades with the Matrix the Matrix reinforced threaded barrel, I've actually got an A.P.S. UAR flash hider on here. Now, one thing to note if you're going to go the extended barrel route is you can't put a straight suppressor on your P226, because as you'll notice, this recoil guide here is just below the flash suppressor. So if you put an actual noise suppressor on it, it's going to be too wide, and you're not going to be able to pull the slide back because it'll get stuck on the recoil guide here. So if you are going to go the threaded barrel route on your P226, you need to use flash hiders, which is actually pretty cool, because if you have like a Dytac or a Blackhawk Serpa holster, you can still fit your 226 in the holster even with the flash suppressor. In fact, I'll go get my holster and show you that now. As you can see, fits right in. Wouldn't be able to do that with a suppressor. Now for internal upgrades, first I'll go over the magazine. Now with the magazine, I've actually got one of those A.P.S Ramjet valves. I absolutely love this valve. I would highly recommend it. It gave me a ridiculously noticeable increase in accuracy. Like, I don't know why it made that much of a difference, but it really did. The Nineball Gas Rubber Packing for the 1911 Hi-Capa or 226, that's just to get a better air seal. Now, as far as the upgrades in the slide go, I've got the UAC ultra lightweight aluminum blowback housing. The reason I went with that is because it's lighter, so the slide cycles faster. I don't care about recoil at all on my guns, so since it cycles faster, I get a bit more of a rate of fire out of it, which of course in pistols just means being able to shoot as fast as you can pull the trigger. I've got a shooter's design POM air nozzle. Now the air nozzles, I've heard if they can increase FPS. Reason I think that is because since the nozzle is a little more solid of a material than the stock one, when the gas goes in the nozzle, it doesn't, you know, flare out the end of the nozzle, and it just stays tighter around the piston O-ring, giving you a better air seal. But that's just my theory. Either way, I've also got a PDI winter piston head in here. I tried the Dyna Piston Head, but it just didn't quite get as good of an air seal as the winter piston head, the PDI winter piston head does, with the shooter's design air nozzle, or the stock air nozzle for that matter. I know the Dyna is supposed to, you know, expand the O-ring, but with the way this air nozzle works, I don't quite like that design. Let me get my Dyna piston head real quick and I'll demonstrate it. Now the reason I don't like vented piston heads on my pistols, but do on my AEGs, is because of the way that the air nozzle or the piston goes around it. Now you see in a gas blowback, the air nozzle, when it gets filled with gas, the gas is supposed to go in these little holes and get behind the O-ring and kind of flare it out. But the thing is, as the air nozzle slides back, it pulls the O-ring this way, which means the O-ring is kind of being pushed like forward. So what that means is it's kind of creating a gap between the back of the O-ring here and the piston. And what I think that could lead to is gas flowing in these little holes, and instead of going behind the O-ring, some of it will flare it out, but a little bit can leak around the back of the O-ring, since it's, you know, pulling the O-ring this way and creating an air seal with the front of the air nozzle, sorry, with the front of the piston and the O-ring instead of the back of the piston with the O-ring. Now you see in an AEG, I like vented piston heads because as the piston head goes through your cylinder, it's being pushed this way, which means that the air seal is being forced between, or a better air seal is being forced between the back of the piston and the O-ring, and since the air flows into the hole in the AEG, if there's an air seal on the back of the piston and the O-ring, then the air that might escape out the O-ring will escape out the front, which just goes back into the chamber, and it'll, you know, won't leak outside of the cylinder assembly. Hopefully that actually made sense to you. But anyway, does the Dyna Piston Head cause leakage and the PDI winter piston head does not? I have no idea, and I have no way of proving it. But either way, the winter piston head gets a better seal with the POM air nozzle, so that's what I use. Also, for the cylinder valve, I use the Action aluminum cylinder bulb, which is, you know, it's the high flow 2-barred style. I also use the stronger spring that came with the Dyna Piston Head. As you'll notice, my 226 is completely tuned to just blow off as much gas as possible during the cycling. Reason for this is I run a giant air tank, so I don't care about gas efficiency. And the other reason for that is I have an extended inner barrel in here. I'm using the Action 6.03 millimeter, the barrel for the Tokyo Marui Hi-Capa. And as far as I know, all Tokyo Marui gas blowback pistols use the same hop-up style cut on their barrels, so you know you can use Hi-Capa barrels in your 226 and whatnot. The overall length of this inner barrel is 178 millimeters. I just got it to see, as a sort of an experimental thing, to see how the barrel length affects accuracy. I am way too lazy to actually do a test and compare the PDI barrel I have with this barrel. However, I like the performance I get out of this barrel, and if it ain't broken, don't fix it, so I'm just going to stick with this barrel, and the P226 looks pretty darn sweet with this flash suppressor, so I'll just, stick with the longer barrel, especially since it's a gas blowback. As far as, without going too technical, gas compression works. Physically, theoretically, the longer barrel should get me better performance. So, mathematically, on paper, the longer barrel should work better than the shorter barrel, though I haven't, put the gun on a bench and set up a target and tested it. And as for the Hop Up Bucking goes, I'm using the modified VSR10 Hop Up. It's pretty much a clone of the Nineball. I might pick up a Nineball eventually. I might test out more thoroughly the A.P.S and the Maple Leaf and the Airsoft Surgeon. Didn't like the Maple Leaf that much because you had to install a special chip into your hop-up adjustment thing to get the Maple Leaf to push the bucking in far enough to hop, and if you push the bucking in that far, since the hop-up arm is like that, it kind of like bends as it pushes down, and I got side hop with the Maple Leaf, so I didn't like the Maple Leaf bucking. This modified bucking works great. Maybe I'll just leave it in and not be bothered and go work on my M93R, but that's that rant out of the way. I also have the, what is this called? The Action Aluminum Recoil Spring Guide set. This is the lightweight black version. I wanted to get the silver version because it goes with the rest of my 226's coloration. I waited like 2 months for my preferred Asian retailers to restock that part. The new indoor field opened. I thought, okay, I need these parts for my pistol now. I went ahead and ordered the black lightweight version. Literally like 1 week later, they finally restocked on the silver one, so I ain't even mad. Although, it would look a lot better with the silver. Anyway, it has a ball bearing spring guide in here, which I think is pretty sweet. I was hoping maybe that could somehow give me a bit more consistency as far as the blowback cycle. Could probably get me maybe more consistent accuracy, and either way it just seems like it might put less wear and tear on the gun. Now, as far as the recoil spring guide goes, I actually did not upgrade my recoil or hammer spring. I tried the garter hammer spring, didn't really seem to make a difference. I tried the Nineball hammer spring. That actually caused me a lot of issues with my gun and cycling. It went the Nineball hammer spring, it would only shoot every other time. Like, you'd shoot it once and it'd load a BB, and you shoot it again and it'd shoot the BB, but then when you shot it again, it wouldn't load a BB because it wasn't cycling far enough, and I'm probably not making much sense, but either way, Nineball gave me problems. And the garter, maybe I'll try out the garter again. But currently using the stock hammer spring and the stock recoil spring. I do not like upgrading my recoil spring because those usually just open up an entirely new can of worm with all kinds of problems with cycling. So unless you're going from a stock Tokyo Marui and upgrading it to like an entirely metal slide and stuff, basically, long story short, don't change your recoil spring guide unless you're having trouble cycling. Because if you change your recoil spring guide when you're not having trouble cycling, 9 times out of 10, you are going to have trouble cycling. So as far as recoil springs go, don't fix it if it ain't broken. And I believe that actually covers everything. Let's just get a nice close-up view once again, my 226. And that's just my showcase of how my 226 is currently as of June 7th, 2015. Thank you all for watching, and take care.